Here's 5 things I do as a scratch golfer to keep my scores low in winter. We all want to play scratch golf, or even just play to our handicap in winter. So what are some things we can do as the weather drops colder and the courses get muddier to keep our scoring good? If you want to shoot lower scores this off season, make sure you watch this video to the end for all 5 tips. So when we're out on the course in winter, off the tee, there's a big thing that's not going to happen, and that is the ball is just not going to run out like we're used to. Obviously the fairways are going to be a lot damper and muddier. Now when you think of this in terms of your driver, and if you've been for a fit-in, hopefully you have, they're optimising for both your carry distance but also your total distance. So typically we might bring the ball flight down a little bit so that land angle isn't too steep, so you get some run out on the golf ball. Now because this isn't the case in winter, it may actually be worth messing around with the loft settings on your driver. Can you put the loft up a little bit, get a little bit more hang time and get a little bit more carry distance to balance out the fact you're losing some of that run out? So this is a 10.5 driver head. Typically I have this at -1. So I'm going to mess around with setting this at neutral, so having it at 10.5 and also having it at 11.5, and just look at the data and see in which setting I hit it the furthest, so ultimately I can get the maximal carry distance out on the course. Right, I've got this set at 11.5, which feels like a lot of loft for me. See how we get on. Now that's definitely flying higher. In terms of carry distance, it's not quite up at what I was seeing before, but I think I've probably gone a bit too much with that 2 degrees. So I'm going to go back down to the middle ground, set it at 10.5, and that's probably going to work for me. Also, how depressing it is that I'm basically doing it 5 miles an hour slower just because I've got about 100 jumpers on right now. So you also need to think about that. Your club head speed's not going to be the same, and neither is your carry distance. When I'm happy with 210, it's just a bit depressing. Now you might love carrying a long iron in your bag, and I'm guilty of this. I love my 4 iron for getting the ball in play off the tee and for playing into longer holes. But in winter it doesn't quite get that max like apex to get a full flight and enough distance, and also it's not going to have that kind of low penetration effect where you're going to get loads of run out on the fairway that balances out. So actually for winter I tend to sub in a hybrid. This just goes a bit higher, gives you a little bit of extra flight, and means you can get some of those long par 4s or short par 5s easier. So if you want to lower your scores this winter, consider putting something with a little bit more loft in play at the top of your bag. It could be a hybrid, it could be a utility wood like this one from Callaway, or it could even be a high lofted fairway wood. This is going to really help you out in terms of consistency and having that extra flight into these holes. So that was a 19-degree utility wood. It's carried 188 yards. It probably is a little bit stronger lofted than my 4 iron, but let's just hit this and see what the comparison is in terms of distance. So you could definitely see that didn't fly anywhere near as high. I've only got like 50 feet of land angle, which just isn't giving it enough height to get up and have a good ball flight. And it's only carried just under 160 yards. So I've gained like 20 yards from nearly identical loft. So if you want more consistent distance with your long clubs, I would suggest adding a hybrid or a lofted fairway wood into the bag this winter. Now I feel like I'm always banging on about carry distances, but I'm just still not convinced the majority of golfers know how far their clubs go. And remember, this is going to be seasonal because it's going to change as the temperature changes throughout the year. So a big thing I would recommend you doing once it gets to winter is getting outside if possible with some sort of launch monitor, be it a quad, TrackMan, flight scope, and hitting shots in the actual temperature that you're going to be playing out on the course and seeing how far your golf clubs actually go, because I think you're going to be amazed at the difference just by the drop in temperature, that thicker winter air, and also sometimes the damp air is going to reduce that distance as well. Now generally I know I carry my 7 iron 153 yards. We're going to see just how much distance I'm going to lose today compared to that. Okay, I've struck it pretty nicely, so that's a good benchmark. The tension's too much, I can't deal with it. That's carried 138.5 yards. So I've lost like 15 yards just because it's colder. Like my club head speed is pretty much where I'd expect to be with a 7 iron, like 84 mile an hour. The height, there or thereabouts, 67. I would generally go like up or down 1 club for cold, but that's like 1.5, so even I need to be moving clubs more, and I feel like I kind of know my carry distances. So just make sure if you're doing this, you're doing it outside in the right weather conditions, or if you're going to do it inside, do it with something like a TrackMan where you can adjust the normalization and set it down to a lower temperature, so it's accurately going to give you how far your ball's going to carry out on the course this winter. God, I feel like I need to hit another one just to check. Like, maybe the monitor's just wrong. This is what everyone is going to be thinking at home when they do this as well. It's literally exactly the same shot. I feel like that's not even gone as far. 139. Yes. So what I would recommend is hitting like 3 to 5 like well-struck shots with this and giving you a good idea of what that kind of average carry distance is. Then remember, if you're on holes where you've got to carry a front bunker or things like that, you've got to factor missed strikes in as well. So definitely get those distances right this winter. It's going to really help you out on the course. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, my stats are showing me that 75% of viewers on this channel are not subscribers. So if you like our content, if you keep coming back to view the videos, hit that subscribe button, it would really help us out. Right, back to the tips. Now, we've got our club distances. We need to actually remember these and use them wisely out on the golf course. Because one of the biggest ways I see people wasting shots out on the course is just by hitting the wrong club into the green. If it's 150 yards to the middle of the green, we know the majority of the time we're not always going to strike it perfect. So actually we should probably be playing for a 155 or 160 number that's more realistic to end up with our ball in the middle of the green. We also need to take into account a lot of factors. Is it into the wind? How cold is it? How thick is the air today? Even stuff like, are you on an upslope? Because that's going to add loft to your golf club and the ball's not going to go as far. So especially in winter, make sure we're clubbing up and getting the ball all the way back to the hole. So once the ground starts getting damper, something interesting happens. You're basically increasing the effective size of the fairway, because once the ball gets down there, it's not going to bounce, it's less likely to run into bunkers or rough. So a really good tip for winter is to get your driver out and hit it more. Be a little bit more aggressive, because actually you've got a little bit more room to hit it to. Say this hole here, we're on the 5th at All Woodley. It is really sloping left to right, and sometimes I wouldn't hit driver because of that, but we're going to see it bounce a lot less at this time of year. So I'm going to get driver out, hit it as far down as I can, because remember, this also isn't going to go as far, because it's pretty cold right now. Now, if you have hazards to carry, such as bunkers or rough that's coming out, or even water and ditches, it's important to remember your driver's going to go at least 20 yards less when the temperature drops. So make sure you're taking enough club to get over, or laying up if that's the case. You might not make those carries you're used to in summer. Whew, that literally bounced a foot right and stopped dead.